The rain had a quiet way of softening the world that morning, tapping lightly on the wide glass windows of the Hale mansion. Most people inside barely noticed it, rushing through their routines, giving orders, signing papers, and discussing business deals worth millions. But someone did notice it, someone who always did. Her name was Maya, the black maid who moved silently from room to room with the kind of grace people rarely pay attention to. She didn't speak much, she didn't complain, and she didn't draw attention to herself. Yet there was something about her presence, something calming, almost magical, that made the chaotic mansion feel warm for once. And what Maya didn't know, what she could never imagine, was that the richest man in the house was watching her more closely than anyone else ever had. Ethan Blake, the young millionaire known for his sharp mind, strict routines, and colder-than-winter attitude, had built an empire with his own hands. People feared him, respected him, admired him, but no one had ever truly known him. He had everything a man could want: wealth, status, success, and a reputation that kept his world running exactly how he liked it. But even with all that power, there was one thing he had never learned how to control: his own heart. And for the first time in years, that heart betrayed him the moment he noticed Maya standing near the window, gently fixing the curtains, lost in her own quiet world. He didn't understand it at first. He didn't know why he paused in the hallway that day, or why his eyes followed the small, careful movements she made, as if every gesture had its own story. Maybe it was the simplicity of her presence in a complicated home. Maybe it was a softness in her eyes that didn't match the hardness of the world she lived in. Or maybe it was the way she treated everyone, no matter who they were, with kindness. But whatever the reason was, Ethan found himself drawn to her in a way he had never experienced before. Maya, on the other hand, had no idea. To her, Ethan Blake was just a distant, powerful man who passed through rooms like a storm, untouchable, unreachable, and uninterested in anything beyond work. She never imagined that someone like him could notice someone like her. She kept her head down, did her job, and stayed invisible, not knowing that invisibility made her even more unforgettable to him. But things didn't stay silent for long. Ethan began to show small changes. Pauses he never used to take, conversations he never used to start, glances that lasted a moment too long. And while Maya remained unaware of the emotions slowly unfolding around her, the rest of the mansion noticed something shifting. Some whispered, some wondered, some waited for something to break. Because love, especially a love that crosses worlds and challenges expectations, never stays hidden forever. And just when Ethan finally gathered the courage to step forward and reveal the truth, something unexpected happened. Something that changed everything before a single word could leave his lips. For a long moment, Ethan stood there frozen, the words he had rehearsed over and over suddenly slipping away as the unexpected interruption shifted everything. He had planned it carefully in his mind: how he would approach Maya without startling her, how he would speak gently so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable, how he would finally confess what he had carried silently for weeks. But instead of stepping forward, he stepped back into the shadows as another voice called Maya's name. It was Mrs. Patterson, the head housekeeper, her tone firm and brisk as always. Maya quickly straightened up, wiping her hands on her apron before turning. She gave a polite nod, unaware that Ethan had been watching her with a heart far too full for a man known for being emotionless. Mrs. Patterson began giving rapid instructions about a private dinner Ethan was hosting later that night, a dinner with guests who held influence, wealth, and expectations that came with both. Maya listened carefully, nodding along, never interrupting, never showing the slightest sign of pressure, even though the workload was overwhelming. That calmness, that quiet strength, only made Ethan's admiration grow deeper. He stepped away before they could see him, retreating down the hallway as if caught doing something he shouldn't. For the first time in years, he felt uncertain, unsteady even. This wasn't a business deal where he could predict every outcome. This wasn't negotiation he could control. This was something far more fragile, and it scared him in a way he wasn't prepared for. He didn't know how to handle emotions that made him hesitate, second-guess, and overthink every move. Meanwhile, Maya carried on with her work, feeling a strange pressure in the air but unable to explain it. She moved from room to room, preparing the dining area, polishing the silverware and adjusting every detail to perfection. She didn't know why her chest tightened whenever she passed the hallway, where Ethan usually walked. She didn't know why she kept feeling watched, not in a frightening way, but as if someone was noticing her for the first time. And she certainly didn't know the reason behind the sudden tension that seemed to settle inside the mansion walls. As afternoon faded into evening, the preparations grew heavier. The kitchen buzzed, the staff rushed, and the tone of the entire house shifted from routine to urgency. Yet in the middle of all the noise, Ethan kept drifting toward the dining hall, pretending to check on the arrangements when in reality, he was searching for glimpses of Maya. Whenever she entered the room, his posture softened. His eyes followed her without meaning to, and his thoughts got tangled in feelings he could no longer deny. Some of the staff exchanged knowing glances. Some whispered behind doors. Some wondered how long it would take before the truth surfaced. But Maya remained completely unaware, too focused on her duties to notice the quiet storm forming around her. As the evening continued, something unusual happened. A phone call came in for Ethan, a call that made his expression change from soft fascination to something sharp and troubled. He stepped out of the room immediately, voice low and serious, disappearing into his private office. Maya noticed the sudden change, even though she didn't understand it. Something about the shift made her uneasy, as if the air had turned heavier in an instant. She looked toward the closed office door, wondering what could make a man like Ethan look shaken. But she didn't dare ask. What Maya didn't know, what no one knew, was that the phone call carried news that would not only affect Ethan, but would also pull her into a storm she never saw coming, and once it started, nothing in either of their lives would remain the same. Ethan stayed in his office longer than anyone expected. The door closed so tightly that even the sound of the bustling mansion couldn't slip through. Whatever had been said on that call had shaken him deeply. The staff waited for instructions about the dinner event, but he didn't return. Maya kept glancing toward the hallway with a worried expression she couldn't quite understand. She didn't know why his absence affected her, only that something in her chest felt unsteady. It wasn't affection, at least not anything she recognized. It was something else, something she didn't have a name for. Inside the office, Ethan sat completely still, staring at the documents spread out on his desk. His family company was under unexpected threat, and someone close to him had betrayed his trust. It wasn't uncommon in the business world, but this time it felt personal. The voice on the phone had hinted that someone inside his own home might be involved, someone who had access to private areas, someone who moved around unnoticed. His mind shouldn't have gone to Maya. She had nothing to do with any of it, but the timing, the whispers among the staff, the sudden shift in the household, all of it tangled in his thoughts until he found himself wondering if she was safe or at risk. He ran a hand through his hair and stood abruptly. He needed answers, but he also needed to protect the people who didn't even know they were part of something bigger. He stepped out of the office just as the first guests were arriving. He forced a polite smile, greeting them, guiding them to the dining area, pretending as though everything was fine. But his eyes kept drifting toward the corner of the room where Maya placed plates one by one, unaware of the chaos quietly building around her. Maya felt the tension in the air growing thicker. She caught a glimpse of Ethan's expression, a mixture of worry and something deeper, something heavy, and it made her uneasy. She tried to stay focused on her tasks, but small things kept distracting her. A few of the guests watched Ethan closely, whispering among themselves. Mrs. Patterson seemed more strict than usual, correcting the staff in a rushed tone. Even the kitchen was unusually silent. And then, during the dinner service, an unexpected moment took place. One of the influential guests, a powerful business partner, called Maya to the table. His tone was polite, but there was an edge to his voice that made Ethan's jaw tense. Maya approached calmly, hands folded in front of her, unsure what was expected. The guest asked her simple questions at first: how long she had worked in the mansion, what her duties were, whether she enjoyed her work. But then the questions shifted, becoming more pointed, more personal, as if he was trying to find a weakness, a mistake, or a secret she didn't even know she had. Ethan stepped closer without realizing it, his protective instinct rising with every question. Maya answered politely, unaware that she was being tested. She had no idea that her calm presence had suddenly become the center of someone else's suspicion. She didn't know that her quiet life was now connected to a conflict far beyond her reach. And just as Ethan was about to intervene, the guest leaned back in his chair, studying Maya with a strange, knowing expression, as if he had discovered something important. Ethan's heart dropped. Maya blinked confused. The guest smiled faintly, then whispered something to Ethan that made his entire world tilt. And in that single moment, Maya went from invisible to the one person everyone suddenly wanted to know more about, without understanding why, or how dangerous it was about to become for her. The moment the guest whispered into Ethan's ear, a cold stillness washed over him. Whatever was said wasn't loud enough for anyone else to hear, but it changed the energy around him instantly. His posture stiffened, his eyes darkened, and for a second he forgot the crowded room, the polished table, the forced smiles, and the carefully arranged dinner. He looked at Maya not with suspicion, but with fear. Fear that she might be caught in something she didn't understand, something she never asked for. Maya stood quietly near the corner, trying to steady her breathing. She didn't know what had happened, but she could feel the shift. The guest who questioned her earlier now watched her with a strange interest, almost like he was studying her. Ethan was visibly uncomfortable, and even the other guests had lowered their voices, sensing that something unusual was happening beneath the surface. Mrs. Patterson approached Maya with a tense whisper, telling her to step back and assist in the kitchen instead. But her voice wavered in a way that made Maya even more uneasy. She sensed that Mrs. Patterson knew something Maya didn't. The walk to the kitchen suddenly felt longer than ever, her footsteps echoing in her mind. She kept replaying the questions that guests had asked her, wondering if she had said something wrong without realizing it. Meanwhile, Ethan excused himself from the table, following the guest into a quiet hallway. Their voices were low, but not low enough to hide the tension. The guest accused someone inside the mansion of leaking confidential information, documents, schedules, private meetings. And then he hinted with a pointed tone that the person moving around unnoticed might be the maid the millionaire seemed too interested in. Ethan's heart hit hard against his ribs. He knew instantly the accusation wasn't true. Maya was innocent. But what terrified him was the realization that others might not see it that way. He had kept his feelings quiet. But people had noticed, and now his silent affection was being twisted into suspicion. The guests warned him to be careful, to watch everyone closely, and to remember that someone with access to private areas could unknowingly be manipulated or used. For the first time, Ethan felt powerless. He couldn't protect Maya without revealing his feelings, and he couldn't stay silent without risking her becoming an easy target. Every second felt like a rope tightening around them both. Back in the kitchen, Maya tried to keep working, but something unexpected happened. She noticed a folded envelope tucked behind the fruit crate. It wasn't addressed to anyone, but her name was scribbled on the front in shaky handwriting. She hesitated, her fingers trembling slightly as she picked it up. Every instinct told her not to open it, but curiosity and a growing sense of dread pulled her in. Before she could read the message, the kitchen door swung open, and Ethan stepped inside, breath uneven, eyes searching for her. When he saw the envelope in her hand, his expression changed again, this time to pure panic. He crossed the room quickly, reaching her just as she unfolded the letter. His voice came out low and urgent, asking her not to read it yet. But she had already seen the first line, just a few words, written in a rushed and shaky hand. "They're watching you. You're in danger." Maya froze. Ethan's face paled. And in that moment, the fragile balance of their world shattered completely, pushing both of them toward a climax neither of them were ready for, and one they might not escape, without losing everything. Ethan gently took the letter from Maya's hands, but the damage was already done. She had seen enough to know something was wrong, very wrong. Maya stood there frozen, her heartbeat echoing in her ears, her mind scrambling for answers that didn't exist yet. She looked at Ethan with confusion and a growing fear, waiting for him to explain. But Ethan couldn't find the right words. Not yet. Not here. Not with so many eyes and ears around them. He folded the letter quickly and slipped it into his pocket, lowering his voice as he told Maya to trust him. Trust. A simple word, but heavy, especially when she barely understood what was happening. Maya nodded slowly, more out of instinct and certainty. Before she could ask anything, the kitchen door swung open again and Mrs. Patterson stepped inside, her expression tight, almost too tight. Her eyes flicked between Maya and Ethan, then landed on the pocket where Ethan had hidden the letter. Something flashed in her eyes. Recognition? Fear? Guilt? Ethan noticed it too. He straightened, his tone suddenly firm as he asked Mrs. Patterson if she needed something. Her answer came too fast, too rehearsed. She claimed she just needed Maya to finish setting the dessert table. But her voice trembled slightly, and she avoided looking directly at Maya. Ethan's suspicion sharpened instantly. Until now, he had trusted Mrs. Patterson without question. She had been with his family for years. But now, with everything happening, even the people he trusted most seemed uncertain. He knew Maya had done nothing wrong, which meant someone else was stirring this chaos deliberately. Maya walked out of the kitchen, still shaken, moving toward the dining hall with her mind racing. Ethan followed at a distance, watching every corner, every shadow. He didn't like how the mansion suddenly felt unfamiliar, like someone was hiding within its walls. Someone watching, someone waiting. And then the second twist struck, quiet but explosive, just as Maya entered the hallway. A loud crash came from the study room. Books toppled, a glass shattered, and someone rushed out, bumping into her so hard she nearly fell. The figure was covered by a hood, face hidden, moving quickly toward the back exit. Maya gasped, steadying herself, and Ethan sprinted toward her just as a mysterious figure slipped away. The staff rushed to see what happened, but Ethan was already inside the study. Papers were scattered everywhere. Private files, business contracts, confidential documents he kept locked. And the safe in the corner was open. Ethan felt his blood run cold. Someone had broken into it. Someone who knew the mansion well. And lying on the floor, half crumpled, was another letter. This one wasn't addressed to Maya or Ethan, but to someone unknown. Ethan picked it up with shaking hands and read the single chilling sentence. Take her before he tells her the truth. The room spun. Ethan felt the walls closing in. Maya, watching from the doorway, had no idea what truth they meant or why she was somehow in the middle of it. And before Ethan could protect her, before he could say a single word, the mansion lights suddenly flickered and went out, plunging everyone into darkness as the real danger finally stepped forward. The sudden darkness swallowed the mansion like a wave, silencing every voice and freezing every step. For a moment, no one moved. Maya stood completely still, trying to adjust her eyes while her heart pounded painfully in her chest. Ethan immediately reached for her hand, his voice low and steady as he told her not to panic. His fingers wrapped around her securely, guiding her away from the hallway and back toward the study where at least there was space to breathe. Emergency lights kicked on a few seconds later, casting the mansion in a dim, reddish glow. Shadows stretched along the walls, and the silence felt heavier than before. Maya held on to Ethan's hand as if it were the only stable thing in the chaos. She didn't understand any of it. The letters, the accusations, the break-in, the hooded figure. But she knew Ethan's fear was real, and that scared her more than anything else. Ethan closed the study door behind them and finally spoke openly. He told her everything. The betrayal inside the company, the threats, the suspicion that someone close to him was involved. He admitted that the guests at dinner believed Maya was being watched or used without her knowledge. Maya listened, unable to blink, the words sinking in slowly. None of it made sense. She was just a maid. She had no reason to be part of any scheme. But then Ethan revealed the truth that had been hanging between them unspoken. He told her that he cared for her more than he should, more than he ever expected. He confessed that he'd been afraid to say it, afraid she might misunderstand or feel pressured. He said that the moment he heard she might be in danger, everything inside him shifted. He couldn't pretend anymore. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Her mind raced from fear to shock to something she couldn't name. She had always kept a respectful distance, never imagining a millionaire would feel anything for her. She opened her mouth to speak, but a sudden loud noise outside the study cut her off. The hooded figure was back, trying to force the door open. Ethan stepped in front of her immediately. The door shook violently. Maya gasped, backing away. Ethan signaled her to stay behind him as he grabbed a heavy object from the shelf, ready to defend her. The intruder slammed the door again, hard enough to crack the frame. Just when it seemed the door would give way, a pair of security guards burst into the hallway. The intruder turned sharply, sprinted toward the back exit, and disappeared into the night with the guards chasing close behind. For the first time, Maya exhaled. When the chaos settled, the police arrived. They inspected the safe, the broken lock, the scattered documents. After hours of questioning and searching, they made an unexpected discovery. Mrs. Patterson's fingerprints on several confidential files she should never have touched. She was confronted, and the truth spilled out. She had been working with someone trying to take control of Ethan's company. The hooded figure had been her contact, and Maya had been dragged into the mess because it was easier to blame someone invisible than someone trusted. Just as everything seemed clear, Ethan found a final letter hidden behind the safe wall. It wasn't addressed to Maya or the intruder. This one was addressed to him. It read, "Your father hid more secrets than you know. She is only the beginning." The police didn't understand it. Maya didn't understand it. But Ethan did. And just when he thought the danger had passed, he realized the story wasn't ending. It was opening a door to something much bigger, something connected to his family, his past, and a truth he wasn't sure he was ready to face, not even with Maya by his side. The mansion slowly returned to normal in the days that followed, but the tension lingered in every corner like a fading shadow. The security team doubled their patrols, new locks were installed, and the staff moved quietly, still shaken by what had happened. Maya continued her work with calm focus, though her thoughts often wandered back to that night. The darkness, the letters, the danger she never imagined would touch her life. She still couldn't believe how quickly everything had changed and how close she had come to a truth she didn't even know existed. Mrs. Patterson was taken into custody, and although the betrayal hurt deeply, Ethan handled the situation with surprising composure. He didn't speak badly of her, even after learning she had been passing information to people trying to dismantle his company. He simply accepted that sometimes the people you trust most hide the biggest secrets. He chose to move forward, choosing clarity and honesty over bitterness. It was a lesson Maya quietly admired. As for the mysterious letter addressed to Ethan, it troubled him for days. He kept it in his jacket pocket and reread it every night, trying to understand what "she is only the beginning" was supposed to mean. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized he couldn't let the past control him. Whatever secrets his father had kept were buried long ago, and he had to decide whether to chase the ghosts of yesterday or build a safer future for the people he cared about now. One afternoon, a week after the incident, Ethan asked Maya to meet him outside the garden. The air was quiet, the sun low and warm, the flowers moving gently in the breeze. Maya walked carefully down the stone path, unsure why he wanted to speak privately. Her heart beat faster when she saw him waiting by the fountain, hands folded, expressions softer than she had ever seen. He apologized first, not for the danger, not for the chaos, but for keeping his feelings hidden so long. He told her he wasn't asking anything from her, only offering honesty. He admitted he cared about her deeply, and that seeing her frightened had made him realize how precious she truly was in his life. Maya listened quietly, unsure how to respond. She had always respected him, admired his kindness, and trusted his judgment. But love was something she had never allowed herself to consider. She didn't want to lose her job or break boundaries she believed were important. Yet as she stood there, she realized something had changed. She had seen Ethan not as a millionaire or a powerful man, but as a human being. Someone who worried, someone who protected, someone who stood between her and danger without hesitation. She felt her heart soften in a way she couldn't deny anymore. She told him she didn't know what the future would look like, that she needed time to understand her emotions, that everything had happened so fast. Ethan didn't push. He simply nodded and said he would wait for as long as she needed. What mattered most was her safety and her comfort, not rushing her into anything. Over the next few weeks, life settled again. The company stabilized, security tightened, and the mansion regained its calm rhythm. Maya and Ethan slowly built a quiet, sincere connection, sharing conversations during breaks, exchanging small smiles in hallways, and learning about each other beyond titles and roles. There was no pressure, no expectation, just a growing warmth that neither of them could ignore. In the end, the danger that once surrounded Maya became the very thing that brought truth into the light. It revealed hidden intentions, exposed betrayal, and uncovered a bond that neither of them expected. The story didn't end in dramatic confessions or sudden romance. Instead, it ended with two people choosing honesty, trust, and patience, knowing that real love grows gently, not loudly. And as Maya walked through the mansion one evening, she caught Ethan watching her with the same quiet admiration he had tried to hide for so long. This time, she smiled back, openly, willingly, finally understanding that her life had changed not because of fear or conflict, but because she had allowed her heart to be seen. And that changed everything.